I never thought a simple text would change my entire life. But that's exactly what happened the night I finally worked up the courage to message my neighbor, the one who'd barely acknowledged my existence for 2 years. Mark's voice breaks as he stares directly into the camera, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. If you're watching this, wondering if taking a chance is worth it, trust me, you need to hear this story to the end. If you're enjoying this incredible true story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more life-changing moments that remind us how unexpected connections can transform our lives in ways we never imagined. Mark Sullivan had been raising his daughter Lily alone since she was 3. Now 8, she was the center of his universe, his reason for waking up each morning, for pushing through the exhaustion, for maintaining the smile on his face even when bills piled up and loneliness threatened to consume him. Their modest 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs of Portland wasn't much, but he'd made it a home, filling it with Lily's artwork, photographs, and the warmth that comes from unconditional love. Apartment 4B, directly across the hall, was a different story altogether. For 2 years, Mark had watched the woman who lived there come and go, always impeccably dressed, always in a hurry, always with a slight frown creasing her forehead. Her name was Claire Bennett. He'd learned that much from the building directory, but beyond that, she remained a mystery. Dark hair usually pulled back in a severe bun, designer clothes that spoke of a successful career, and a demeanor that screamed, "Do not disturb." She'd nod curtly when they passed in the hallway, but that was the extent of their interaction. "Daddy, why doesn't the pretty lady ever smile?" Lily had asked once after Claire had hurried past them without a word, the click of her heels echoing down the corridor. "Some people just have a lot on their minds, sweetheart," Mark had answered, though he'd wondered the same thing countless times. What Mark didn't know was that Claire Bennett had her reasons for keeping the world at arm's length. 6 years earlier, she'd lost everything that mattered in a single night: her fiancé, her trust in people, and her belief in happy endings. The successful marketing executive that neighbors saw was merely a shell, a carefully constructed facade that allowed her to function in a world that had shown her its cruelest side. The day everything changed began like any other Tuesday. Mark had dropped Lily off at school, rushed to his job as a graphic designer at a small local agency, and spent the day juggling client demands while mentally planning Lily's upcoming birthday party. By the time he picked her up from after-school care, his energy was flagging, but Lily's excitement about a class project revitalized him. "We're doing a community helpers project, Daddy. I want to interview different people in our building about their jobs." Lily bounced in her seat as they drove home. Mark's heart sank. Their building wasn't exactly a friendly, communal place. Most residents kept to themselves, hurrying from parking lot to apartment without stopping for conversation. "That sounds great, honey. Mrs. Rodriguez in 2A is a nurse, I think. And Mr. Chen in 5C owns that restaurant downtown. What about the lady across the hall? She looks important." Mark hesitated. "Claire? I don't know, sweetie. She seems pretty busy all the time. But I need 5 interviews by Friday." Lily's lower lip trembled slightly. That evening, after dinner and homework, Mark stared at his phone, composing and deleting message after message. Finally, with a deep breath, he typed, "Hi Claire, this is Mark from across the hall, 4A. Sorry to bother you, but my daughter Lily has a school project interviewing people about their jobs. She's hoping to include you if you'd be willing to spare 10 minutes sometime this week. No pressure at all if you're too busy. Hope you're having a good evening." His thumb hovered over the send button. Was this too forward? Would she think he was using his daughter as an excuse to talk to her? Before he could overthink it further, he added a final line that surprised even himself. "P.S. I've always wanted to tell you that you have the most captivating walk I've ever seen. Like someone who knows exactly where they're going in life." Immediately after sending it, Mark threw his phone onto the couch as if it had burned him. What had he done? That postscript was completely inappropriate, flirty even. She'd probably report him to the building manager for harassment. He'd have to move. Change his name. Leave the country. 3 hours later, as Mark was tucking Lily into bed, his phone vibrated. With trepidation, he checked the message. "Mark, I'd be happy to help Lily with her project. I'm free tomorrow evening around 7 if that works. As for your postscript, no one has ever described my walk that way before. Usually people just think I'm angry or unapproachable. The truth is, I'm usually just trying not to fall apart in public. I haven't known where I'm going in life for a very long time. But thank you for seeing something in me that I'd forgotten existed. Claire." Mark read the message 3 times, his heart pounding. The vulnerability in her words shocked him. This wasn't the cold, distant neighbor he thought he knew. This was someone in pain, someone who had just opened a tiny window into her soul. The next evening, Claire arrived at their door precisely at 7 p.m. Gone was the severe bun and formal attire. Instead, her dark hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and she wore jeans and a simple blue sweater that brought out the depth in her eyes. Mark noticed immediately that she seemed nervous, fidgeting with the sleeve of her sweater as Lily enthusiastically invited her in. "Thank you so much for coming, Ms. Bennett. I have all my questions ready." Lily led Claire to their small dining table where she'd set up her interview station, complete with a notebook, pencils, and a small digital recorder Mark had lent her. "Please, call me Claire," she said, smiling tentatively at Lily. It was the first genuine smile Mark had ever seen on her face, and it transformed her completely. As Lily conducted her interview, Mark busied himself in the kitchen, preparing coffee and arranging cookies on a plate. He couldn't help overhearing Claire's answers as she explained her role as a marketing director, describing campaigns she'd created and the path that had led her to her career. "The most important part of my job is understanding people," Claire was saying. "What they need, what they dream about, what makes them afraid. If you can understand that, you can connect with them." "Is it hard to understand people?" Lily asked innocently. There was a pause before Claire answered. "Sometimes it's easier to understand strangers than to understand yourself." After the interview concluded, Lily proudly showed Claire her collection of stuffed animals before Mark gently reminded her it was time for homework and then bed. As Lily reluctantly headed to her room, an awkward silence fell between the adults. "Thank you," Mark said finally. "She's been worried about completing this project. You really made her day." Claire cradled her coffee mug between her hands. "She's wonderful. You're doing an amazing job with her." "I'm trying," Mark admitted. "Some days are harder than others." "Is her mother?" Claire trailed off, clearly unsure if she was overstepping. "She left when Lily was 3. Decided family life wasn't for her after all." Mark had long since moved past the bitterness, but the pain of watching his daughter grow up without a mother still lingered. Claire nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding. "I'm sorry. That must be incredibly difficult. What about you?" Mark ventured. "Your message last night, it seemed like maybe you're carrying something heavy too." Claire's fingers tightened around her mug. For a moment, Mark thought she might leave, retreat back behind the walls she'd built. Instead, she took a deep breath. 6 years ago, I was engaged to be married. David was everything. Kind, brilliant, patient. We had our whole lives planned out. Her voice grew quieter. 3 weeks before our wedding, he was killed by a drunk driver. Hit while crossing the street right in front of our apartment. I watched it happen from our window. Mark felt his chest constrict. "Claire, I'm so sorry. After that, I just shut down. Threw myself into work. Moved to a new city. Became the person you've seen in the hallway, someone who doesn't connect, doesn't engage, doesn't risk caring about anyone." She looked up, meeting his eyes. "Until your text last night. Something about it just cracked something open in me." That evening marked the beginning of a slow, cautious friendship. Claire began stopping by to say hello to Lily after work. Mark would occasionally leave small gifts outside Claire's door, a book he thought she might enjoy, flowers from the farmer's market, a particularly beautiful pastry from the bakery down the street. They started having dinner together once a week, then twice. Claire revealed herself to be surprisingly funny, with a dry wit that made Mark laugh harder than he had in years. But the path wasn't smooth. 3 months into their budding relationship, Claire suddenly withdrew. She stopped answering texts, avoided them in the hallway, and declined dinner invitations with vague excuses about work. Mark was bewildered and hurt, but he respected her space, even as Lily repeatedly asked why Claire didn't visit anymore. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Late one night, Mark was awakened by a soft knocking at his door. Opening it, he found Claire standing there, eyes red from crying, hands trembling. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Today would have been our anniversary, mine and David's. I thought I could handle it, but then I started feeling happy with you and Lily, and the guilt just overwhelmed me. Like I was betraying him by moving on." Mark gently pulled her into his apartment and just held her while she cried. He didn't offer platitudes or solutions, just the comfort of human connection, something Claire had denied herself for too long. "David loved you," Mark said finally. "Would he want you to spend your life alone and unhappy?" Claire looked up at him, her face tear-stained but somehow lighter. "No. He wouldn't. He'd probably be the first person telling me to take a chance on happiness again." "Then maybe it's time to listen to him," Mark suggested softly. Their relationship deepened after that night. Claire began to share more of herself, not just the pain of her past, but her hopes, her dreams, her silly childhood stories. Mark introduced her to the messier aspects of parenting, including helping with science projects, dealing with Lily's first heartbreak when her best friend moved away, and navigating the complicated politics of school fundraisers. 6 months after that first text message, as they sat on Mark's small balcony watching the sunset while Lily played inside, Claire turned to him with a serious expression. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice steady but vulnerable. "I've been offered a promotion at work. It would mean more responsibility, better pay, but also, relocating to Chicago." Mark felt his heart sink. "When would you leave?" "That's just it." Claire reached for his hand. "I turned it down this morning." "What?" "Claire, that's a huge opportunity." "Why would you?" "Because for the first time in 6 years, I know exactly where I'm going in life," she said, echoing his words from that first text. "And it's not Chicago. It's wherever you and Lily are." 1 year to the day after Mark sent that fateful text, he and Claire were married in a small ceremony in the building's courtyard, with Lily serving proudly as flower girl. Mrs. Rodriguez from 2A cried openly, and Mr. Chen from 5C provided the catering, refusing to accept payment. As Claire and Mark shared their first dance as husband and wife, she leaned close to whisper in his ear. "Thank you for seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself." Mark pulled back slightly to look into her eyes. "Thank you for having the courage to reply to a slightly inappropriate text from the desperate single dad across the hall." Claire laughed, the sound free and joyful. "Best decision I ever made." As the camera pans out on Mark finishing his story, we see Claire enter the frame, wrapping her arms around him from behind, Lily, now a teenager, joining them with a smile. "One text changed everything," Mark concludes, his voice thick with emotion. "Sometimes the greatest risk isn't reaching out, it's never trying at all." If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more reminders that love can find us in the most unexpected moments, often when we've stopped looking for it. Sometimes, the person who will change your life has been right across the hall all along, just waiting for you to send that one message that will break down the walls between you.